It started with small accusations. Quiet at first, almost whispered between irritation and exhaustion. My husband would pause near the kitchen doorway, glance around as if calculating something invisible, and say I wasn't keeping track of things the way I used to. He always said it softly, as if he didn't want to hurt me. That almost made it worse. Soft words can cut deeper because they pretend they're not trying to. The house had always been my space. Not in the traditional way people imagine, but in the sense that I ran it like a breathing system. Bills lined up, receipts saved, groceries budgeted, everything documented. I kept order because order kept me steady. When the first amount went missing from the safe, I blamed myself. I must have counted wrong. Or maybe I misplaced something. I didn't want to admit the deeper fear, the feeling that something was shifting inside this house, like a quiet draft slipping under a locked door. He questioned me again the next week. Not softly this time. His voice carried through the hallway, sharp enough to make me freeze with a basket of folded laundry in my hands. He asked why the electricity bill hadn't been paid, why the safe balance didn't match the notebook I kept. He didn't shout, but there was weight behind his words. Accusation without proof, but enough pressure to make me feel guilty before I even opened my mouth. I tried to explain, but the words tangled. When you're defending yourself against someone you love, the truth becomes shaky in your hands. He walked away before I could finish, muttering something about irresponsibility. I could have let it go, but a strange unease settled in the pit of my stomach. Like something rotten sitting beneath fresh fruit. His mother started visiting more often around that time. She'd walk into the house with a smile too polite to trust, brushing past me like she belonged more than I did. She always had a way of making me feel like a guest in my own home. She'd linger near the safe whenever she could, commenting on how people get careless when they're comfortable. Her presence became a shadow. Every night, she'd stay just long enough to look around the house as if searching for something to judge. Every morning after, another small amount would be missing from the safe. It didn't take long for the pattern to become undeniable. Still, I said nothing. I watched. I listened. I waited. Silence can be a form of power when you choose it. I knew the accusations weren't really about money, they were about control. Someone wanted me blamed, pinned, cornered. And my husband, he believed every word his mother breathed. That was the part that hurt most. It was around 2 in the morning when I woke up to the sound of soft movement in the hallway. Not footsteps exactly, more like the faint shift of fabric, a careful rustle, the kind people make when they're trying not to be heard. At first, I assumed it was my husband getting water, but when I reached out, his side of the bed was warm. He hadn't moved. That uneasy feeling I'd been carrying for weeks suddenly sharpened. I got up quietly, letting my feet find the cold floorboards without a sound. The hallway was dim, lit only by the dull glow from the small bulb near the staircase. I didn't breathe. I didn't move forward. I just watched the shadow near the living room, small, hunched, deliberate. Then she stepped into the light. My mother-in-law. Wearing gloves. Holding the safe keys. Opening it with the kind of familiarity that only comes from repetition. She didn't hesitate. Didn't look around nervously. She moved with practiced confidence, like someone performing a routine they had perfected. I stood still, hidden by the darkness, and watched as she pulled envelopes from the safe, money I had logged, counted, safeguarded. She didn't take all of it. Just enough to confuse. Just enough to make it look like I was the problem. The realization hit me hard and cold. She wasn't stealing because she needed the money. She was stealing, so my husband would doubt me. So he would question my competence. So I would lose the one place I held authority. A controlled collapse, disguised as innocent concern. I should have confronted her right then. But something told me to stay quiet. The truth is stronger when it reveals itself, not when you drag it into the light. I backed away slowly, returned to bed, and waited. She left an hour later. I heard the front door click shut softly, the way thieves close doors. When my husband woke up, she called him immediately, pretending she had been awake for hours. She talked loudly, clearly wanting me to hear every word. She told him he needed to be more vigilant with money. She told him someone might be taking advantage of his kindness. She told him he should reconsider trusting people blindly. Every line was a dart thrown at me. And he absorbed every one of them. That morning, he confronted me again. This time he didn't hide his irritation. He accused me of mismanaging everything. He didn't ask questions, he delivered verdicts. I stayed silent. Not defeated, just calculating. I had seen enough. The truth sat calmly in my hands now, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange sense of control. He thought he was uncovering my failures. She thought she was building her case. Neither of them knew I had witnessed the entire theft. Once I knew what she'd been doing, everything that had confused me before suddenly made sense. Every missing bill, every misplaced receipt, every time she arrived unannounced with that pitying expression, she wasn't checking on us. She was checking how well her plan was working. And my husband? He was the perfect audience. She knew exactly which strings to pull. He trusted her blindly, and she used that trust like a weapon. But I wasn't going to confront them with anger. I needed proof, undeniable, irrefutable proof that would choke every lie they'd ever spoken. The first thing I did was replace the batteries in the hallway camera they always forgot to maintain. Then I placed a small, motion-activated device inside the living room cabinet facing the safe. It looked like a simple decoration, something decorative and meaningless. But it was sharp, precise, and built to record silently. I didn't want just a few seconds of footage. I wanted a pattern. A timeline. A truth she couldn't wiggle out of. For 3 nights, I pretended nothing had changed. I cooked. I cleaned. I acted confused when my husband questioned me about the house expenses. I even apologized, not because I was guilty, but because I knew it kept both of them comfortable in their arrogance. And arrogance always leads the guilty right back to the scene of their crime. On the 4th night, around the same hour, I heard the same careful rustling. I kept my breathing steady and listened as she moved through the hallway again. She didn't hesitate, she went straight to the safe, opened it with the same ease, removed money, smoothed the envelopes, and closed everything again. Except this time, the camera caught every second. Her gloves. Her posture. Her smirk when she pocketed the cash. Even the way she whispered to herself, "This will teach her." But I wasn't done. I needed my husband to see it with his own eyes, not because I needed validation, but because I wanted the betrayal to hit him from inside, not from me. The next morning, I woke before he did. I made breakfast, set the table, and placed my phone right next to his plate. When he came down, he barely looked at me, still fueled by yesterday's accusations. That's when I hit play. The room shifted instantly. He froze. His eyes locked onto the screen. He leaned closer, then closer, until he realized exactly what he was watching. His own mother. Breaking into our safe. Stealing his money. Setting me up. He didn't speak for a long time. When he finally did, his voice sounded like someone had scraped all the air out of it. Is this real? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The footage answered for me. When I finally walked into the kitchen that night, neither of them expected me to say a word. They were so used to speaking about me, deciding for me, blaming me, that my silence had become their comfort zone. But that night, I didn't walk in empty-handed. I placed the small metal safe on the table, the one they thought I had never even touched, and watched both their faces stiffen. My husband tried to act offended, like I was interrupting some important conversation. His mother just tightened her jaw, the way she always did when she felt her control slipping. "I think we all need to talk," I said. He rolled his eyes. "We're done talking about money, all right? You just need to learn." "You're right," I cut him off. "Talking hasn't gotten me anywhere. So tonight, we deal with facts." I pulled out the USB drive and plugged it into the TV. The screen lit up, and the first video started playing. Night vision footage. Clear audio. Timestamps. Everything. It showed his mother entering our bedroom at 1:12 a.m. Heading straight to the safe. Bending down like she'd done it for years. Typing in the code, confidently, without hesitation, then pulling out cash and tucking it inside her purse. She did it again the next night. And the next. And the next. My husband's expression didn't shift at first. He stared like he couldn't process what he was seeing. When the third clip played, he finally looked at his mother. She swallowed hard, trying to keep her face neutral, but her hands were trembling. "This is edited," she snapped. I didn't respond. I just opened the safe right in front of them, revealing the hidden counter I had installed inside, the digital log showing every time the safe had been opened in the last 3 months. Every entry matched her nightly visits down to the exact second. And just in case that's not enough, I added, sliding a manila folder across the table. "Here are the bank deposit slips from her account. The dates match the withdrawals almost perfectly." My husband's face drained of color. His mother tried one last desperate swing. "She's framing me. She's trying to ruin this family." I leaned forward and kept my voice calm. "Why would I need to frame someone who leaves this much evidence behind?" She froze. And in that silence, the truth finally hit my husband in a way nothing else had. The guilt, the embarrassment, The realization that he had accused me while protecting the real thief, it all washed over him at once. But I wasn't done. You accused me. You yelled at me. You made me feel small, I said. And all that time, it was happening right under your roof. Under your mother's hands. His mother muttered something under her breath, but he didn't defend her this time. He didn't defend anyone. He just sank into the chair and buried his face in his hands. The power shift was instant. They weren't the accusers anymore. They were the exposed ones. The next morning, the house felt different. Quieter. He didn't storm into the kitchen barking accusations. She didn't hover over me with that smug little smirk she wore when she thought she'd won. Instead, they both avoided me. They moved slowly, like people walking through the ruins of something they had destroyed with their own hands. But avoiding me wasn't going to spare either of them. I had spent weeks gathering evidence. I hadn't done that just to clear my name. I did it to take back control that they had stolen piece by piece. And now that everything was out in the open, the fallout had to be just as loud as the humiliation they'd put me through. I started with my husband. He followed me around the house like a shadow, desperate to explain himself. He kept saying he didn't know, that he trusted his mother, that he thought I was just careless with money. He apologized in circles, but none of it changed what he'd done to me. He never asked questions. He never listened. He simply believed the person who had the most to gain from lying. I didn't scream at him. I didn't cry. I didn't even raise my voice. I just handed him the printed copy of the bank logs and said, "You'll need these. I'm going to the police today." He blinked. "What? You're going to file a report?" "She committed repeated theft," I said. "And you helped her accuse me of it. So yes, I'm filing." His face twisted like he'd been slapped. He started begging then, not for forgiveness, but for silence. He asked me to think about family image, reputation, and what people will say. All the things he cared about more than honesty. I left him standing in the hallway and went to the living room. His mother was waiting. Arms crossed. Chin raised. A woman who still thought she could shame her way out of consequences. When I took out my phone and pressed record, she finally lost that confidence. "You're not recording me," she snapped. "I am," I said calmly. "And I'm giving you one chance to return every last rupee you took. If you don't, I file charges." She sputtered and cursed, but the bluff wasn't hers anymore. For the first time, she knew she had no leverage. That night, she transferred everything back, every stolen note, every hidden deposit. But returning the money didn't mean she walked away clean. I filed the report anyway. And I handed over every piece of footage to the police. My husband tried to stop them when they came to take her statement. He tried to protect her. Not me. Even after everything. That was the final answer I needed. I packed my bags the next morning. No tetrix. No threats. Just a quiet exit from a place that never treated me like a partner, only a target. Before I closed the door behind me, I said one thing to him: next time you trust someone blindly, make sure they're not the one robbing you in the dark. 3 days later, the police called. Charges had been accepted. She would be summoned to court. Their little alliance had finally collapsed, under truth, under proof, and under the weight of their own hands.